Hello and welcome to my next Blender video. I'm still figuring out how exactly I want to present these. So for now, me talking with stuff in the background. We'll see how that works. It's going to probably change as we progress through and things get more in depth. But for now, we are doing the core fundamentals of mesh modeling presented by CG Cookie. So what I've been doing is watch, follow, copy. So watch through parts of the tutorials because tutorials are not often one big thing. They're often split into parts. So in this case, there were two parts to it. So I've watched through the first part. Then I went back and any bits where it was stuff to follow, I followed along. And then what you're going to see is me trying to copy that without following the tutorial. In this case, there are three builds. There was a snowman, which you should be seeing now, a kind of sci-fi crate, and a football. And I learned a lot. So figuring out how to do things I'm used to doing, but being done in Blender, and the football was just completely new, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I can use these skills later. But I figured for the first video, let's talk about how I got here, so what my past is with 3D modeling, because while I'm learning how to use Blender, I haven't just got Blender. I actually got Blender for the first time back when I was a teenager, so nearly 20 years ago. I was quite young in my teens from what I recall, because I was just really into 3D animation, and then quickly remembered that I'm not good at art, which is a bit of a problem. So I've been working on it. I've been trying to make things better. And this is kind of part of that whole thing. And I think I've made strides, just figuring out my artistic process, which sounds ugh. But it's true. It's all my ways. I make the thing and then I'll go through and refine it in stages and stages and stages. So I started off with Blender. So I've kind of been on and off with Blender for a long time, not really knowing what to do. Then, back when I was at uni, one of my university friends was going to Comic-Con. And he wanted a gun made from a video game. I've tried to remember what it was. I can't remember what it was. We're not really in contact anymore, so I don't know. And I just had a reputation for being the person you come to with these things, even though I don't have those skills. And jokingly, I said, well, my cousin's got a 3D mill. We can make a 3D file of the thing and then just mill it out. And then that next day, I think it was, I happened to be talking to my cousin and I mentioned this and my cousin went, sure, have you heard of Fusion 360? So I downloaded Fusion 360, which is a 3D CAD software, looked at some tutorials for it, and it wasn't a great model, it wasn't a great way of modeling, but within a week or two, I had a model of the gun. We got the whole thing milled out, put it together because we had to do it in separate parts. That worked great. And that got me into Fusion 360, doing various modeling things for that, which then got me, of course, onto 3D printing. So I do have currently two 3D printers. One of them isn't working at the moment. We're still trying to get that set up. Just got to find time for it. And I kind of co-own them with my dad's engineering company. So he works for a very small engineering company, so small that a few years ago one person retired, which means their staff was reduced by a third. So as I said, I co-own the 3D printers with them, with the idea of if they need anything 3D printed, they'll send me through the technical drawings and I'll draw it up in 3D, generate the files, get the stuff printed for them. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with Fusion 360 because of that, and I am very confident with my CAD skills. There's still a lot that I'm sure I don't know because I am self-taught, and when you are self-taught, you've got to acknowledge that there's going to be big gaps in your knowledge. And then I got into content creation. And I was making fairly bog standard Minecraft videos. Of course, you always bring your own twist to it because you bring your own personality to it. And then the idea of Studio Blocks came about, which I don't think I've ever spoken about how that started. Because I'd done some lore stuff before, and I was in chats with some friends about starting a lore-based server. We were trying to figure out how we were going to make that work. And then it occurred to me that whenever I had done lore stuff before, I'd always incorporated parts of the original Weird and Bearded skin into the skins that I was making, because in my head, it was always Weird and Bearded playing dress up. So I brought that idea along to, well, what if then people can do their own bits of lore and other people come in as themselves putting on costumes to take part in that lore, and then that got onto acting, and then that became Studio Blocks. So of course with Studio Blocks we then need special effects, and even before thinking of Studio Blocks I had already done some stuff. If you go back, there's a video where I made a large horse statue, not really a horse, a hippocampus, so front part horse, back part fish, and I modelled that myself in Blender. Quite a low poly model, because you don't really need high poly when putting things into Minecraft, but I managed to make that work. But now I want to improve my Blender skills, and that leads to now. Learning Blender from the tutorials. That's kind of the entire story of how I got here. So, at this stage, if I edited it the way I want to edit it, should see the 3 models I've made as the first part of the core fundamentals of mesh modeling tutorial. There's a second part to that, which I'm going to start working on. I was hoping to get more done this month, but unfortunately, for the last 2 weeks, I've been ill. I seem to be just about over it. I was still coughing yesterday. I haven't coughed yet today. But I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do. Hopefully get more stuff done in December, because December's going to be a weird month for me. And we can start just working our way through the tutorials. Hopefully you'll see my skills increasing, and I'll start making things not following tutorials. Just, I've had this idea for a thing I want to make. I now have an idea of how I can make it. Let's try stuff. That's an idea that just came to me. I think that could be a good way to go with this. So, if you like the video, if you liked hearing about my history, leave a like. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Subscribe if you haven't already. My name is Weird and Bearded, and I will see you all next time.